Welcome to the Filipino American Women Project, a podcast show that shares stories and life lessons told by individuals living or have lived in America that are of Filipino descent and identify as female. I'm your host, Jen Amos, a fellow Filipino American woman, and I'm excited for you to join us. Let's get started. All right, hey everyone, welcome back. Jen Amos here. And before I get this show started, I want to give you a little context. So this is going to be part 2 of the live show that we did in San Francisco Bay Area of December 2019. If you want to listen to part 1 of this recording, I recommend that you go back to episode 41. So this is episode 42. And now I recommend that you go back to 41 if you haven't listened to it yet. That one is titled, Filipino isn't something that you need to try to be, it's who you already are. And I want to give a special shout out to Abby, who actually had said that line in part 1. So go ahead and listen to that. And if you are already caught up, I will try to keep this segment really short. Just a couple of housekeeping. Just like in the first episode, this was a very raw recording that we did. So happened to be a sound studio in my Airbnb in Oakland, California. You're going to hear a lot of things in the background that you would hear when there are many people in a room. So I just ask you to give us grace for that. I hope that this inspires you, that you could share your story unapologetically and in the most raw, authentic way possible. And that's what we really did at this live event. Also, I have to give another shout out to everyone that had attended. So here we go. I'm going to go down the list of names. A shout out to Nani, my co-host. You can find her on Instagram at Notes by Nani. To Aubrey at Optimus. Abby at Sailor Moon 424. Crystal actually had to leave early. You can hear her contribution to our live show in the first episode in part 1, episode 41 of this. But if you want to learn more about her and the amazing work she's doing with her podcast show, check out IG handle at Filipina, that's with an A, Filipina on the Rise. To our amazing historian, Stacy Ann, IG handle Salinas S89. To my good friend, my high school friend, Keen, IG handle What's Cooking Good Looking. And the birthday girl, Janelle at Original. Now, these are all spelt in unique ways, so I highly recommend that you check out our show notes, really the episode notes of this episode, to get their IG handles and reach out to them and engage with them. This show wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for your continuous engagement with us. And so I hope for the second part, you pay close attention and feel inspired to reach out to us on Instagram at the Filipino American Woman or email us at thefilipinoamericanwoman@gmail.com and let us know what your thoughts are. And if any part of this next episode resonates with you in any way. And of course, if this reminds you of anyone or you think that this episode can help anyone, to please share this episode. Once again, I just really want to thank the attendees that came out. Doing something like this, I know for a fact that it's a courageous act to show up. And so I just want to thank you all again for believing in yourselves and really trusting us to provide you a safe space to just open up and speak unapologetically. I love you all. And let's just get into it. I'm done talking now. All right, here we go.
I feel like there's all these stories and all these things that people have been teaching me that I'm like, I should have freaking learned this when I was 8, and when I was
the reality is that none of us have learned
exactly
until we invested in it.
Right.
Yeah.
And exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was kind of like my first initial reaction when I was like listening to yours, and I was like, wow, here are all the, not all the answers, but here are some of the answers I always wanted and asked for and just never bothered asking because I had this experience of someone telling me well, you're not here. You're not important. You're not important to be part of this. Literally someone telling me that I'm not part of the history books, and I was like, okay, but I'm here. So what does that mean?
How did I get here?
How did I get here?
Explain it
But weren't Filipinos the first Asians to be recorded in history in America ever?
Were they? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Even before Columbus.
No, really, I didn't know that.
Even before I learned this through the Filipino American History Month infographics that someone shared, and I was just like, yeah, I mean, even before the railroad was built and the Chinese got all the credit, I mean, not like I'm part Chinese too, but I'm just saying, like, why is our history so compartmentalized to the point where, you know, the people who pick the food, the manongs? Yeah, well, just the people the farm workers, why does, like, you know, Cesar Chavez get all the credit for that when Filipinos, Carlos Bulasan, like, hello, like, that whole story is about him, you know, figuring out, like, just trying to get through that, and just, like, why are we left out as Filipinos, like, out of history completely left out of, like, and, like, the Chinese and the Japanese got, like, all this credit, well, not credit, but just, like, attention, like, in history, like, we learned about that, like, because we are, like, the smallest, like, I guess most manipulatable land, you know, like, we don't have, like, an army like Japanese had an army.
I also think that that's actually the key, and that's probably a top 3 reason of why we don't learn about Filipino history. And
we have no political presence beyond being manipulated and being used and being, like, you know, as our positioning in the islands as, like, strategic positioning, like
puppeteered.
Yeah, exactly.
Favorite word, Abby.
Exactly. And it's, like so that, like, always messed with me personally, like, identity-wise. It's like, okay, I'm just here to be used, basically. You know? Because Filipinos as, like, as a nation have always just been used and never accredited and never recognized and never represented, and it's just
that's
like,
so true.
Why? And that's why this project is so special, because this is, like, the baby steps towards gaining that recognition and amplifying the voices of the people who, like, have lived history, lived life experiences. So thank you both so much for the work you do and bringing us.
Thank you for being here.
And I want to add
It is our birthday.
It's Janelle's closet. We're going to take another shot. No, I'm just kidding. I just can't emphasize enough, like, we wouldn't do this. Like, I wouldn't have flown out to San Francisco if I didn't realize how important this was. And it's literally because of everyone's feedback. Like, literally. You know, and also, Stacey, when you wrote a piece about us, too, like, she's so humble. Can you believe, like, how humble she is? No, but I'm serious, because it's like, I thought I was the only one that was thinking these things, you know? And so when you hear another person that feels that way, it's like, oh, like, who else feels that way? And then before you know it, at the time of this recording, we have 7,100 downloads for our podcast. And so I think it's just kind of like a testament to how much this show has resonated with people. And it's just really crazy, actually. Like, if I were to go through, like, the different, like, cities and stuff that people are listening from, I'll probably save that for another episode. But even the last episode we did, when we were, like, I think we were celebrating, like, 4,000. I don't know. What were we celebrating?
Like 3 or 4.
Like 3,000 or 4,000 downloads. You know, it was just really crazy, like, how many cities in California were listening in. I mean, mainly California. I think that's kind of obvious. But also, like, just in, like, different pockets in the U.S., like Chicago, like, the East Coast, like New York especially. And I think there's a very tiny percentage in Virginia Beach, which is where I live right now. But anyway, I just think, like, it's so beautiful that even though we don't have the answers, like, entirely, I feel like Stacey is, like, the closest at it. Sorry, I'm just going to, like, fangirl you this entire time. I'm going to put you on the spot this entire time. One of the founders of the Bulasan Center, by the way, at UC Davis.
No,
UC Davis.
It was Dr. Rodriguez, no.
Okay, but you're part of it. You're part of it. I'm throwing credit back to Stacey because she's really humble, and when people are humble, I like to, like, just kind of really recognize them that much more. Yeah, I like to amp them up. But no, it's kind of interesting that, like, we don't know all the answers, but that's our narrative right now, is that we're all coming together and we're all kind of like, wow, you don't know the answer, like, you don't know why you feel like you're not enough, like, you don't know why you don't feel like you're enough. And it's like, I think if, like, more of us, like, come together and realize, like, oh my gosh, like, we all have the imposter syndrome.
And just express
oh my gosh, like, we all have it, and let's just, like, laugh about it. First of all, it's like, oh my gosh, like, this whole time I thought I was the only defected person.
out there. Like, I was the only one who felt like I wasn't enough. I was the only one who felt like, just not enough, right? I felt like I wasn't Filipino enough. I wasn't American enough. I wasn't, like, just enough, you know? And just to realize that, like, there's so many people that feel that way, and, like, how we're coming together despite this whole, like, what was that phrase that Crystal said? Like, internalized racism. Like, despite, like, everything that has held us back to be in this space right now, we're here. We're showing up. So I just want to thank you all. Like, I can't even, like, oh my God, it's just so incredible to just be in this space with all of you right now and realize, like, oh my gosh, like, we all, like, felt like we were not enough in some fashion or another. We all were, like, angry. We all had some sense of, like, I don't want to be around, like, other Filipinas. I don't want to be a Filipino. Like, if I'm too Filipino, then I'm not going to be recognized in the Western world, you know? Like, we all, like, have that. We're all closeted, like Janelle, which it's her birthday today.
Happy birthday.
It's her birthday. So, despite everything we have convinced ourselves to be, like, we showing up tonight anyway.
Yeah, and realize that we can connect on that.
Yeah.
You know.
And I just want to thank you all. Like, I'm sure there's a part of us that are like, man, this is like a fucking waste of time. Like, how is this going to apply? How is this going to apply to my professional life? How is this going to apply to, like, whatever, right? But I feel like this is so much bigger than us because there's so many closeted Filipinos who, like, want to be in the white community and try to blend in despite people asking, like, where are you from? Where are you really from? You know, like, you deal with that anyway because it's so much better than being in a community of Filipinos and just not feeling like you're seen, right? And so there's just, like, there's just so much. And I just want to thank you all for being here today and being, like, adding to our history, right? Because history is really a collection of stories. And, like, this conversation today, I don't know if it makes any sense at the end of this, especially when I edit it, but I feel like for whatever reason, like, every episode that we do, even though we don't know the direction of it, it has drawn certain people such as yourself to be here today. So I just want to thank you all. God, I feel like I lost my voice. Like, my voice is, like, really raspy now.
No,
I've been talking, like, nonstop for, like, 72 hours now. But no, I just want to thank you all so much for, like, being here. Sorry, not sorry.
I know, sorry.
Not sorry.
I can't stop saying sorry.
Not sorry. And so anyway, I just kind of want to open the floor to see if anyone feels like they want to add to, like, the conversation and say anything after what I said.
Do you want me to answer the segregation thing, or you figured it out on your own?
Oh, no, that'd be great.
Okay.
Answer it.
Well, sorry. What was the segregation thing you were talking about? What was the question again?
It was literally just, like, where were Filipinos during the segregation?
Okay. When we think about Filipinos, you're right. They've been here since the 17th century. They landed in Morro Bay. They were one of the sailors that the Spanish had told, okay, you're going with us in order to explore this land. And they actually had confronted a lot of Native Americans, and they had gone into a kerfuffle. And those who had passed away from that kerfuffle were Filipino sailors. So the only reason why we know Filipinos stepped on the land, the first Asians to step on the land, is because the captain had kept a journal.
Wow.
Yeah, and they had actually been importing Filipino slaves from the Philippines to help construct and go through the gold mines in the New World.
Wow.
So the Spanish had imported Filipino slaves because the Philippines was using slavery already. It's not a...
I didn't know
that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Philippines was not, like, perfect before colonization. It was very much, feudal.
Yeah. This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Yeah, so in Southeast Asia, East Asia, they had slave systems.
Wow.
Yeah, and then so we have that as well. And then when it comes to segregation, Filipinos were actually considered, if you look at the San Francisco census in, I think, in the middle of 19th century, late 19th century, Filipinos were considered white. So they're considered white. Yeah. So if you go to San Francisco's main library, I forget what it's called. God, and I'm from Daly City.
What, Civic Center?
The main SF library, like the big one where they host all the events. Is it just SF Library?
Yeah,
or am I tripping ball sacks?
Oh, sorry.
It's Stacy. It's Stacy, everyone.
The main branch. Yeah. So yeah, if you go there, they have those census records, and so Filipinos were considered white. It's when you have...
that's really interesting.
Yeah, and then when you have the Philippine-American War, Filipinos fighting for sovereignty and independence, that's when Americans really stick to their guns. Like, no, we are associating them with brown menace, therefore they are other. And then but when you really see segregation happening, Filipinos weren't allowed to participate, especially when they're arriving as farm workers and busboys, domestic workers in the United States, particularly during the Great Depression. They weren't allowed to participate as well. So if they wanted to watch a film, for example, they were, like, let's say Salinas, they would have to have their own theater for Asians. They didn't have the word Asian yet. Asian comes out in, like, the 60s during the Asian American movement.
What?
Yeah, so that collective identity. Because Japanese and Chinese, they didn't want Filipinos to be Asian. So we have all these movements, of claiming Filipino identity, claiming Asianness, but Filipinos were segregated. It's when you really see it at the state and national level is when Filipinos wanted to marry white women. Because Asian women, since the Page Act of, like, 1860, late, mid-19th century, Asian women were barred because they were assumed to be prostitutes. So they're bringing in disease, right? But it's actually white men who wanted the importation of Asian women, right? Wow. And so a lot of Filipinos, if we look at traditional patrilineal patriarchal families, why would you want the woman to go to a new world, right? So a lot of Filipinos actually wanted to marry white women. They married white women, Hispanic women, and Native American women.
Wow.
Yeah, but when white mainstream society actually saw that, if you read newspapers from the 20s to 30s, they hated the idea of mixing. They thought Filipinos were this exotic group of men who were too feminine, but also too masculine for their own good because they have that Spanish flavor and they're Catholic. They don't like Catholics. Right? And so they think they're going to ruin our pure white women.
The Americans didn't like Catholics?
Yeah.
Christians as well,
so
right?
It's WASP. So white Anglo-Saxon Protestants were the majority leaders. If we even look at it today in our politics, WASP. We call them WASP.
Wow, that's deep.
In history.
Wow.
Yeah, and so they didn't want Filipinos mixing with white women because Filipinos were better at it. And being suave. So if you actually look at primary sources and you listen to oral histories, Filipino men actually donned the entire Western suit. The zoot suit, they knew how to dress themselves up. They knew how to peacock themselves, in essence. And they danced with white women at taxi dance halls in their spare time. So if you can imagine a Filipino worker in his zoot suit, right? He's in the farm all day, 12 to 14 hours. He wants to have a good time. There's no Filipinos here. For every 20 Filipino men, there was one Filipina, right?
Wow.
That's across for some states as well. So he would want to have a good time. So he actually danced with taxi dance girls who were usually white women.
Yeah. It's interesting how the Filipina woman experience is so different from the Filipino man.
We always so in case there's any Filipino men
like
listening to this, like Keen, if you start a podcast for Filipino men, we love to hear it.
Yes.
Just saying.
You should utilize Stacey as a resource.
1934.
Yeah, talk to Stacey.
Los Angeles County, a Filipino man rolled down and wanted to marry a woman outside of his race.
Wow.
And he argued, no, I am not Mongolian, I'm not Mongoloid, I am not Chinese, I'm not Japanese, because they had immigration acts that had deemed those people as non-white. And he argued, no, because I am Filipino, I should be clarified as white, because I don't count as these other Asian groups. They denied him that basis. The basis was they didn't want him to mix with a white woman. So 1933, 1934, California state law, Filipinos cannot mix outside of their race. If they want to, they have to get out of the state. So a lot of them went to New Mexico, as far as Canada, to get married. So you hear about these Filipino men who drove with their white wives.
And this is what year?
This is like 1933, 1934. That's when the anti-miscegenation law happens. So Filipinos have been experiencing segregation for a long time. But if you listen to these love stories, these men and their wives, they actually went as far as Canada to get married.
Wow.
Yeah. As far as Canada to get married. And along the way, they would get beat up. Yeah, and attacked. And they're Hapa kids, they're mixed kids that also experience like the worst brunt of it. If you're a white woman and you chose to marry a Filipino, that's actually called the Cable Act. You were denied American citizenship. You would inherit the citizenship of your husband.
Wow.
Yeah, and Filipinos were nationals, so they're in between. So you lose. And then your children become nationals as well.
That's super just like interesting for me to hear because my mom is white and my dad is Filipino.
So if it was
they met I don't know when they met after that, but not that much longer.
Yeah.
Wow. After that, like maybe 30 years or something.
Yeah, they removed the anti-miscegenation law only because Filipinos participated in the war. So that's crazy. Segregation, but Filipinos World War II.
Okay.
Yeah, they participated in World War II by force.
Wow.
Yeah, they removed the anti-miscegenation law from that. But yeah, it's a pretty sad history. But yeah, because I also have a chapter in my dissertation about the Filipinos who married white women. They're actually elevated in class because they had gotten a white woman as a prize. So you have articles about the white wives having to be Filipina enough in order to be accepted into the Filipino community. And then, and I followed the census records and where they were. So those mixed families had a higher status in that ethnic enclave. In Salinas, for example, they lived on the other side of the railroad tracks. Wow. And the Filipinos live in the ghettos.
Yeah.
In the tent cities. Yeah, the labor camps.
So crazy.
So yeah.
That's a lot of information.
Yeah, I know.
Which is great because you can replay this. We're all going to have to listen back to that.
Chapter 2. And also it's homage to my fiance because he's also half Filipino, half Italian American. And so, like, what happened to these mixed race kids?
Yeah.
Because they either choose to claim their identity or they're forced to stay in between because they don't know what to do.
Right.
Or they choose the Filipino side. And that's not fair, forcing a child to pick.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we never hear the woman's side of the story as well. So yeah, that's a chapter in my dissertation about the mixed race children and the white wives, or the Mexican wives, because Mexican was also considered white.
Yeah.
So if a Filipino wanted to marry a Mexican American woman, he couldn't. He had to go to another state. Yeah. So
I feel like we're in class right now.
Sorry.
No.
I love it.
Your segregation.
I appreciate
Answer.
it. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh my It only took me like forever years, but thank you.
You're like, you got all the answers right here in your closet. On your birthday. And you can repeat this a number of times because it'll be on. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you for allowing us to ask you all of these questions.
Pick your brain.
And pick your brain because you're just so invested in this. So thank you so much for that. I just wanted to open the floor to see if anyone wanted to share any thoughts on just anything that Stacey said.
Hey everyone, Jen Amos here, just cutting into the middle of the show like I always do, but also at the time of this recording, we did have to take a pause. So I thought I would use this opportunity to give a shout out to Mestiza Taqueria, which was a restaurant in San Francisco Bay Area. They're on Bryant Street. They were so gracious to cater our event. So I just want to thank you specifically to Marianne for working with us, and also to Nani, of course, for helping coordinate with them to cater for us. Just a little bit about Mestiza Taqueria. It was created and influenced by the Filipino roots of the owner, Diana Sisson. So shout out to you. Shout out to Mestiza Taqueria. Really encourage you all to learn more about them, especially if you're in the Bay Area, and check them out. And if you want to learn more about them, check them out in the show notes. All right, let's get back into the interview.
Anyone?
Do you have any other questions?
She's here.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm like so overwhelmed by that one answer. I'm like, I don't even know if I have any right now.
I mean, I think that it ties into, or not ties into, but if you look at like the reason why we're all here and all of our stories, like it's very much connected to that. In different ways, obviously, for everybody, because we all have different backgrounds, but that explains so much. I mean, at least for me. Sorry.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
So why do we say sorry so much?
Don't ask me.
Beautiful. Well, I just feel like we had such an awesome conversation today. I'm just curious because you all made time to show up today and be here. So I thought we would either wrap up or let's see where this conversation goes. But I kind of wanted to just go around in a circle and just share like the real reason why you showed up. And, like, if you feel like you got what you wanted out of showing up today. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take a moment to think about it. I'll start because I'm in a talking mood now.
Okay.
Well, I came out, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Why am I closing my eyes? Maybe I get more into it when I close my eyes.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes.
Because when I close my eyes, I'm going to sing a song for y'all. Because we're in a music studio. I feel so compelled. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I'm not going to sing.
Happy birthday.
Only at karaoke. Yeah, I like sing when I'm drunk at karaoke. That's it. That's the only rule. So if anyone wants to hear me sing, drunk karaoke is going to be the same.
I'm celebrating my birthday tomorrow at a karaoke bar. You should come see
Oh,
there.
girl. Where? Okay, message me. DM me.
Don't tell everyone.
Because everyone's going to show up. Yeah. No, this episode will be available like mid-January. I know already. So like, yeah, because just on the schedule and like how the other episodes are coming out, I know it's going to be mid-January. But anyway, I feel like the reason why I came out is I want to kind of like just share a story of actually like, you know, Keen was sort of a part of this, but when I was in high school, I was a freshman at Eastlake High School, as Keen knows. And at the time, there was another high school that was opening up. It's called Otay Ranch High School. So this is in Chula Vista, California. So shout out to anyone in San Diego. So I could have stayed at Eastlake High School because my brother was there. My brother was like a junior, senior there. I had the choice to stay, or I had the choice to go to this new school where as a sophomore, I was going to be the upperclassman for 3 years. So we were the upperclassmen for 3 years. So I could have stayed, but the reason why I decided to go to a new school is because I was bullied by Filipinas or Pinays in 8th grade, and I found out that a lot of them were going to go to this new school. Oh. And I thought to myself, like, do I want to avoid that? Do I want to avoid that confrontation and just kind of like stay at Eastlake High School and just kind of like live my life and just always avoid it? Or do I want to face it head on? And so I decided to go to Otay Ranch. I mean, amongst many reasons, like they sold the idea that sports was going to be really big there. And it was cool because I was varsity and team captain of my track and field team and cross country team for 3 years, like sophomore to senior year. But anyway, the reason why I mention this is that I feel like we all have a choice where we could just kind of like stay where we're at. Or I think like what we all feel like, and maybe this is just the way that I describe like what we're all going through, is that we feel like we have this disability because we're Filipino. And we could either just deny it and try to cover it, or we can face it head on. And that's why I decided to go to Otay Ranch, is because I felt like I could address a lot of my issues, especially being Filipina, like head on and like going to the school. And so I feel like that's kind of what we're all doing today, is kind of despite everything. We don't know, like, what this is going to do for us, but it's so much better than just, like, covering it up. It's so much better than ignoring it, denying it, and trying to blend in with everyone else despite the fact that we already, like, look different, right? And so I think that's kind of, like, how I see this whole situation, is that we're really talking about it in a very raw, inebriated way. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just want to thank you all for that experience. Oh yeah, to answer the question of like, you know, did I get what I wanted out of showing up? Like, what was my expectation? Well, first of all, I didn't have any expectations, but I think for me it was kind of like, there's like this bug in my ear where like I just have to come to San Francisco and I just have to kind of like figure this out, like, because I'm not going to figure it out by sitting in Virginia Beach being with my white husband and my white roommate and my white community. I'm not going to figure it out that way. So I need to come into the heart of it. I need to come into the place where like a good majority of our listeners are at. And for me, I just feel like you all have just given me more conviction to just show up as I am. Period. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that's going to look like after this when I'm sober. But I really do feel like you all have given me this conviction to continue to show up as I am and to continue to produce this podcast. And it's crazy because, like, I've been self-funding it. I mean, it's not expensive, but I've been self-funding it. Like, this has nothing to do with what I do for my career right now. But I'm doing it because for whatever fucking reason, I need to do it. You know, it's bigger than whatever I understand. I just have to do it, you know, and I think it has a lot to do with, like, everyone's feedback of, like, yeah, like, I'm stuck in that situation as well. Like, I don't know why I feel so self-conflicted. I don't know why I don't feel good enough. And I just feel like we need to keep, like, addressing that until we find the language and the verbiage to get out of our closets, Janelle.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Yeah, and just be like, yes, this is who I am. This is who I am. Like, I don't know entirely who I am, but this is who I am. And that's it. That's it. So, anyway, I just want to see if that's all I wanted to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that a lot of
thank you.
What you talked
Thank
about.
you, alcohol. Okay, welcome. Thank you for bringing my drinks. You've been doing it all night. I appreciate that. Okay, anyway, yeah.
I think that for me, what I try to do in any space that I'm ever in is provide perspective. And so what I'm trying to do in any of my idle time that I'm not like trying to focus on something is gain perspective. And it's one thing to like communicate with you all online and through Instagram, which is amazing. Like, I enjoy those conversations and I appreciate that feedback, but it's another thing to put a face to the name. And I don't know, just really recognize the impact. And like you said, reiterate that this is so much bigger than us, even if we don't understand it or know how to articulate. And that's why all of you guys are so important, because you help us do that. Like, these conversations help us develop that language that we need to have these conversations, so that even if you're not participating, if you're just, like you said, in the back seat, per Jolene's example, you're still benefiting from it. And like someone else said before, you don't have to be a frontline activist. You can find your own place in it. You know, there's behind the scenes work to be done. There's frontline work to be done, and everything in between. You know, and there's so many of us that are just now plugging into this, that I think that this conversation just has to keep going.
We're just going to keep, like, our mouths open.
Yeah. Fun.
I mean, I don't want my mouth to get dry, but I'm going to, like, hydrate at least a little bit. Okay, cool. So I want to just go around in a circle. I feel like this is kind of our way of like wrapping up this conversation because I know it's getting late and people need to go home. But anyway, to just kind of remind everyone what the question was, it's kind of like, did you get what you were looking for coming out here tonight? And if you did, what was that? So who wants to go next? I mean, obviously I can go. Do you want to go next, Abby?
Sure, I can go next.
All right. Here you go.
I'm next to you, so.
Yes, okay, go ahead.
I didn't even know what to expect tonight, to be honest, because I didn't even really know until a few hours ago exactly what I was doing or where I was going. I just figured, I listened to the podcast and I really wanted to come out and just support it. And I didn't know what to expect, but I got a lot more than what I came here for, I feel like. Just thinking about my own experiences and listening to all these other stories. Mm-hmm. And how amazing is it that, despite these hurdles that we had to jump through, we're still here. Mm-hmm. And that in and of itself is already powerful. Yes. But the work that you both do is, something that I struggled with a lot on my own in terms of my own identity. So to see us reclaiming it and being proud of it is something so meaningful to me. And it allows me to keep doing what I want to do because I really want to be like Stacey in a lot of ways.
Don't we all want to be like Stacey? I love you, Stacey. Okay, listeners, if you see Stacey's face right now, she's just like looking down, shaking her head. She's so crazy humble. This is why we're picking on her, because she's so humble right now.
No, it's her birthday.
and now we're gonna take it on Janelle because it's her birthday and she didn't tell us until she decided to share it later.
Keep reminding her it's her birthday.
So yeah, we're just gonna call out everyone, and also Keen being the only male here in the room. We're gonna call out Keen. Yes. Okay, anyway.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's just empowering to see other Filipino women not only being proud of who we are and what we do, but also having the willingness to share our stories despite the times that we're belittled, despite the times that we're discriminated or offended or hurt by others within and outside of our community. We're still here. And I think that that's just so amazing. And I think that just being in this space with you all really empowers me to keep doing what I do.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
So good.
Aubrey, it sounds like you have something to say.
Well, I mean, just listening to everyone, I feel very appreciative. And I definitely have received beyond what I expected. I knew I needed to come here because despite all my self-doubt and insecurities and social anxiety surrounding why I shouldn't come here, I just felt like I was following your lead, like you using your voice and listening to each of you use your voice gave me a voice, or just, modeled for me as a person who didn't grow up with her own parents and having that model of how to be as a person in that first unit of what it's like to be in the world at all. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I am working with right now personally, and just finding my models, finding like what I want to sound like, what I want to hear like, and what I don't, like what you said about, finding inspiration in the artists that we like and what we don't like, and we get to choose, and owning that empowerment. I just feel like stronger from it. And I think the biggest takeaway I get to have is releasing of the shame, because I had so much shame, like, about not being Filipino enough or American enough or woman enough even, in so many ways, because of the whole invitation and just the group chat. And you were like, I don't know about mics. And I was like, I don't either. I just wanted to offer it. And
we're not even using a mic.
I know. And I only offered it because of, like, a criticism that I had that was like, okay, when I listen to the podcast, I can't hear well, and I wish if I could help this podcast, I want to help it. So if, like, maybe there's someone else out there who can't hear as well, no matter how loud I turn it and put it, it's just, like, very cloudy. And obviously, like, I'm not knocking it. I still listen to it, and I'll take it for what it is, cloudy and whatever, because it still brings me a connection that I've never been able to have before within myself. So thank you all. And I'm just, definitely leaving with so much more than I came with and expected. So.
And I appreciate you saying that, because I feel like my purpose here doing this podcast is just to be a mirror for everyone else. It's like, I mean, I could totally talk about myself, but this show's not about me. You know, of course, like, my story adds to it, but ultimately it's just like being that mirror for other Pinays to see themselves and to realize that they are good enough, you know, like, they're validated and they have a voice and they need to speak up. And there's this quote that I heard some time ago. It said something like, the only way to find your voice is to use it. Mm-hmm. And so that's what Nani and I are doing. We don't know where the fuck we're going, but we're talking. And apparently it's brought people like all of you to join us today and, you know, to influence you in this kind of way. So I just want to thank you for being here and sharing that. And I think that there are listeners in your position who also have something to say about the audio. And I want to thank you for that. And we want to hear from you more often because we definitely do want to improve the audio, especially now that I have this editor that does a really good job at it. But yeah, I think from here we're just getting better.
Yes.
We're getting better.
Absolutely.
And we're getting better because we realize that people are listening to our stories.
Yeah.
You know, the primary goal was just to document the stories. Mm-hmm. And now we want to document them a lot better because we realize it matters. Mm-hmm. So thank you for your feedback.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And despite all of that, I brought a mic and we could have used it. So, and that to me, like, the best quality of being Filipino is our resiliency. And I know everyone will agree. Yeah. Anyone who's non-Filipino, who's met a Filipino will say they're the happiest people. And
absolutely.
Despite our inner turmoil, we're still finding like
that's
this
a great
joy.
point. Yeah.
And so, you know, mabuhay to us.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, does anyone else want to chime in on that? Stacey, you talked a lot, but you're welcome to keep talking.
Did you get what you wanted?
The next co-host.
Yes, our next co-host. Yes.
No, that's Nani's job.
No, I know, that is Nani's job. That's Nani's job. Sorry.
We can make it like a talk show, like a view.
We could. We'll work toward it. We'll work toward it. Yeah, 2020 is going to be an exciting year.
Yes, because I was just expecting sisterhood.
Oh,
In whatever form that looks like.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and that's why I do what I do. I was raised by my grandparents too, so I was always stuck in between, like, what is Filipino culture and what isn't, and then you're also just like thrown into Daly City. It's just Filipino town. Mm-hmm. But what that's taught me is I just want collective community, and usually sisterhood's the best thing to lean to because it's familiar. Yeah. And then when it's not familiar, you make it familiar. I did come in here with what I was expecting. And also, when we first met on the phone, I already knew that there was it wasn't even an opportunity. It was just more, another connection to family.
Oh,
yeah, because because I did also get bullied by other Filipino organizations, as Abby has actually witnessed when I was participating in Filipino American History Month in Yolo County. Filipino elders telling me I'm not Filipino enough because I can't speak Tagalog, but I actually understand Tagalog and Ilocano and Pangasinan. But we were taught not to speak it because we don't want to fall back in school. And looking me up and down and saying, you're full Filipino, aren't you? And I knew what that meant. Wow. Yeah, I think we all know what that means. So, so I was only expecting sisterhood. I got that essentially out of it. And it's also a good moment for my mentee, Abby. Yeah, because she's graduating. If she wanted to find other collectives, that's positive and affirming.
Yes.
Yeah, not you're bullied into being Filipino.
Oh my God, yes.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, you're bullied to be Filipino when that's not. In actuality, the box is not well defined.
Very inclusive.
Yeah, very cliquey.
Yeah.
Filipino girls were
We're
cliquey.
very anti-tippy.
Watch out, Tippy.
Filipino version of Mean Girls.
Yes.
Pretty much. But we're the nice girls.
Yes.
But I know that, like, for anyone that thinks that they're a tippy or like, oh my gosh, that was me, I was part of those like groups that bullied other people.
Well, Crystal said it, that she was a flutist and she was a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
You know? She said it. Play back the tape.
I believe you.
What's her Instagram handle again? What's her Instagram handle?
Philippine on the rise.
She said it herself. I'm just quoting. But then,
it's still sisterhood.
Yeah.
You learn as you go.
And sisters fight.
Yes.
That's so true. That's so true.
Good point.
Yeah. I think like the reason we all came together too is our like vulnerability. You know, just not knowing and just kind of all like venturing into the unknown
just kind of trusting
together.
it.
Yeah.
But I think to add upon that, like even if we do feel competitive against each other, or we feel like we need to like treat our other Panays as like the other kind of thing, or like we're better than them, that it's still not going to change the fact that we're Filipino. And I think that's why we continue to dive into this. Like, we will take breaks. Like, I've definitely take breaks from the community, and I still will take breaks. Like, I'll admit that. Not out of, like, shame. Not out of, like healthy boundaries, y'all. Yeah. It's like my husband. Like, I can't be around him all the time, okay? Like, we run a business together. We spend life together. We have a dog with separation anxiety together. And this is, like, the longest I'm going to be away from him in 3 years, for 3 weeks. But it doesn't mean that I don't like him. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to like be with him ever again. It just means that I need to take a break. And I think that's one thing we need to understand as Filipinos, is that it's okay to take a break. It's okay to take a break and to realize that for yourself, and not just get so invested in the community that you feel like you need to attack someone.
Right. Or you have your own space.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, that's it. That's all I was going to say. I felt like I was going to say something else and I forgot.
All right, Jen Amos here, jumping into the middle of our show, as I always do, to remind you why this show is possible. So, at the end of every episode, I tend to say, if you didn't catch our guest contact info, don't worry, we'll have those in the show notes. Check them out. I worked so hard on them. You're welcome. Well, it's been brought to my attention that our show notes are not as easy to find as I thought, which is why, starting summer 2020, the Filipino American Women Project is proud to be partnering with Captivate, the world's only growth-oriented podcast host. Captivate is created for independent podcasters, designed from day one to help you to focus on audience growth and the expansion of your audio influence. One way that Captivate makes our lives easier as independent podcasters is by taking the guesswork out of making a website for your show. That's right, a website for your show. So listeners, starting summer 2020, finding our show notes will be so much easier. All thanks to Captivate. You're welcome, as always. If you're about to start podcasting or are getting burnt out from all the extra work of producing one, like building a website, consider a 7-day free trial, that's right, free, with Captivate by visiting thefilamwoman.com. That's the Filam, short for Filipino American Woman.com. Or, check out our show notes in the meantime, which is in the details section of each episode. Once again, you can visit thefilamwoman.com or visit the details section of this episode.
Anyway, Keen, anything else, Stacey? You just want
No, that's it.
Okay, cool.
I kind of want to ride off of what Stacey was saying, but I want to start by saying when I came here, I was really in the mood to see like behind the scenes. I haven't been too involved with many podcasts or live discussions, but I'm diving headfirst into it. So I was just drawing as much information I can on the tech specs. But what I found and didn't expect was, sisterhood. I guess.
Yes, King. Yes.
I have one brother. I never had any sisters.
Oh, wow. Now
Are you younger or older?
6.
I'm the younger brother.
You're younger, it's okay.
Yeah, so
I never knew you had an older brother.
That's right.
In the 15 years that I've apparently known you.
You don't know a lot about me, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to learn more about you tomorrow as we hang out. Okay, anyway, go on.
Yeah, and that's the whole point of me actually really getting on to, opening myself up and allowing myself to be vulnerable and to let that voice ring in the form of my own channel through the medium of food and get-togethers. Because that's really where it is for me. It's I got into the food industry, realized that food is life. Food is also
like
money.
Literally.
Yeah, food is money, so you can turn it into something. And one of the knowledge bombs I would drop from school is that the great chef Brown would tell me that time, which we all have, time is an ingredient.
Yeah.
You can't cook a recipe unless you have time for it.
Yeah.
So when you combine time and food and money, I can't stop. And that's why everything I'm doing, even just the social bonding, I'm thinking about the next time I can, serve dinner to you or like we can get together. It's always around food, just like we have in the other room.
Yeah. You're going to be like our personal cook when I'm in town again.
This is what being means. I want to. I know that in this day and age, it's been so complicated with food. We have Impossible Burgers. What's that even mean?
Yeah.
And why do people still buy it when it still tastes like crap? But there's a ton of conversations around food that I'm going to be explicit and put myself into. I might make enemies out of giant corporations because I'm going to talk about things that they don't want the people to talk about. But it's the truth, and this is what the whole community, the whole sisterhood, brotherhood, the collective is about. It's about sharing these truths and moving forward from it, just as much as it is to find out about our own identity and sharing that, I'm not the only one that feels that way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a great weight off of everyone's shoulders.
I think for a lot of us it starts as like a personal investment or a personal journey, and then once we find all these other people that that are so relatable, then it becomes like the responsibility aspect,
Yeah, absolutely.
So y'all's is my community, and I hope to cook for you again.
Yeah,
soon.
You can cook for us anytime.
He lives in the city, so hit him up. Check out the show notes. Show notes, you're welcome. Find his IG handle. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Keen, so much.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yes.
Birthday girl.
Birthday girl.
So the birthday girl. Janelle's Closet Podcast. Janelle, what do you have to say? What's going on?
I don't really know what I was looking for besides like what I mentioned earlier and feeling like this sudden responsibility to like figure things out really quickly. I think I just like I don't know what I wanted out of this, and I don't know.
That's okay.
I don't feel like I've had time to like process this whole entire conversation.
I know. You're
and
probably gonna like process this like 6 months from now,
I'm gonna be
and be like, oh my god, Jen, I realized.
In a car, when you get home, you're gonna
that's
be like,
what I got out of it.
Can you add this to this?
Yeah.
But I've been talking a lot to my therapist, actually. So I didn't tell any of you guys this, but I was the first person, both sides of my family, to be born in the United States.
Wow.
So I feel like there's just like all these like added layers of like responsibility to like figure things out on my own. And a lot of my sessions are me just being like, I am tired of trailblazing and doing this alone.
Yes.
And figuring it out all by myself. And it was really hard going to a university that was largely nursing students and knowing like that's where I was supposed to be and that's what I should be doing. And I think that one of my things when I was searching out like other people in community of people who like didn't take traditional routes, and not to say that that's like a bad route to take, but I kind of felt like I was doing it on my own and that no one else was doing that, especially because I was surrounded by so many people who were taking the traditional route, and all my roommates were nursing students and all my like best friends were nursing students. So it was just like really rough for me. And I think that has been like my biggest, like, there has to be other trailblazers, like there has to be other people who are doing this with me, and it's not just like a me thing. And I have like gained a lot of insight listening to this podcast and realizing like it's not just me. There are a whole bunch of people who have taken on their own route and their own journey to wherever it is that they are now. And I've had a lot of like solidarity and feeling like I'm not alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
From complete strangers that I've like never met. So I don't know what I wanted out of this night, but I'm really happy that I showed up. And I'm really glad that I'm here, and that whatever it is that happens after tonight, who knows? But I think that tonight really affirmed all of these like feelings of like being alone and not having other people to lean on in this like non-traditional route I took. I also did not mention this, but I'm getting my master's in business administration right now, and it is so like dominantly like male and white, and it is so hard to like speak up in my classes, and I talk about that often with like my friends. And so I've just gotten to a point, and I said this earlier, but I really have just gotten to a point where I'm like tired of doing this alone, and I like really need to search out people who are also trailblazing themselves.
Find your tribe.
Yeah, exactly. So I am happy I showed up, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm sure I'll figure out what this means afterwards.
Absolutely.
But at the least, thank you.
I think all of the answers to that question is also an evolving thing. Like that's an ongoing question that you can ask yourself every time you listen to an episode or when you talk to us on Instagram or you know, whatever it is that impacts you. You can keep asking yourself that question. Your answer will continue to change.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I love it. And I feel like we've had the fortune of interviewing so many trailblazers. I feel like every other person we interview will say, like, I'm the only Panay.
One in my space.
Yeah, the only one in my space, you know, and yeah, we got to stick together, you know. We got to continue showing up, and I think part of that is really sharing our story. So, Nani, did you get what you wanted out of tonight?
Yes, I answered first.
Yeah. Oh, you did? Oh, my God. Did she?
When you were collecting your thoughts.
I was. Oh, my God. I'm, like, sobering up now, and I'm just realizing what happened.
It's all good.
I love it. Well, everyone, I think obviously this is not the end of our conversation. This is really the start of it, you know, especially the first of many conversations. And I just want to thank you all for being physically present, because I know that a lot of us listen to this in our closets. I'm sorry to keep picking on you, but it's your birthday, Janelle. It's your birthday, and we want to keep acknowledging it. Yeah. It is. It's really true that a lot of us listen to this by ourselves. And, you know, when Nani and I do this, we don't do this around other people. We do it in the safety of our own homes. And, you know, even for me, it's like I didn't really re-explore this again and want to relaunch it until I was away from, like, my own mom, you know, in my own community, to be like, okay, maybe I can, like, finally look at our community without feeling so, like, maybe angry all the time or feeling, like, competitive or feeling triggered. And somehow along the way, I was able to connect with other people such as yourselves who, like, feel the same way. So with that said, I think...
Wait, I have one more...
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think I just...
Go in your thinking space.
I was going to respond to something that you said earlier.
Okay.
About how Filipinos have always just been used. And that, like, the way that you talked about it kind of gave, like, a very macro view of that. But I felt that on a very, like, personal, internal level, even in my own relationships with, you know, romantic relationships, friends, family. I've always felt like my only purpose in those relationships is to serve people. And that's just kind of the, like, role that I've taken on. And what I get out of this is, like, oh, maybe, like, this happened really, like, on the fly, the way that we agreed to co-host, and now we're here and whatever, and, like, I have always been in my head about it, like, whatever. But to be here in the circle and hear you guys talking about what it means to you helps me know that, like, even if it makes me uncomfortable, I have to do it, and I have to push myself, you know, so thank you guys again.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I thought that we would wrap up, and I'm going to go around a circle again, because we're all here, so why not? Why not put you all in the spotlight?
We just want to really maximize this time.
Yeah, I don't want you to leave. In this, like, studio of all places.
Another question.
Yeah. No, I do want to wrap up by everyone going around in a circle, and I do want to start with you, Abby, because you're next to me, and I think Nani and I will wrap it up. But after this whole experience, and I know it's a lot of information, but what do you think is, like, the next step for yourself? Like, after tonight, what do you think you're going to, like, do next? And so we can take a moment to think about it. And, like, Abby, when you're ready to share that, like, by all means, like, go ahead. Go ahead and do that.
Okay. At the time of this recording, I graduated from UC Davis.
Congratulations, by the way.
Congratulations. Literally last week with a bachelor's in history and a minor in both Asian American studies and education. Wow. I'm submitting an honors thesis that includes Filipino American history and sort of the real legacy of Cesar Chavez. And so, being under the guidance of a really amazing mentor, I want to keep writing our stories because they matter.
Yes, absolutely.
We matter.
Yes.
You know, and I know I've said this multiple times in other conferences, but I really do believe that Filipino American history is not just a facet of American history. It's a part of American history. We are a part of this country. We're part of this society. And so for myself, I really want to keep writing those stories as I keep witnessing all these great, you know, amazing things happening around me. I want to be the one to write it and to share with others, not just within our community, but in the spaces where we weren't originally welcome, that we matter, and to keep sort of pushing that pushing that out there.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. You need it. We're gonna interview you next. You're gonna be on our show. I know. We're gonna reach out. Do an invite. Yeah, Abby, you're gonna be on the show.
Oh,
Beautiful.
That's
Yes.
so good.
Yes.
I don't even know. My breath is taken away. That's what I want to do, but I have no qualifications. But I don't know what I want to do. I feel more confident in myself, but right now I feel really excited and just really woken up, and I don't have a plan. But
Good. You woke up.
The next step for me is to keep the conversation going, and with less shame, because the manang at the fast food window, I interact with so many Filipinos all the time, every day, and I want to just be I don't want to just be you're Filipino too, but I just want to I feel it already happens, we already know, we're already out here, but I just feel I just want to say it's okay or something. I don't know. Is that corny? No. So this is all the self-judgment. Everything comes in when I try to show up in the outside world. Here I am here with you, where you guys are all affirming me, but in general, I hold so much shame about who I am, and it's at least after tonight, my plan is just to go out there with less shame and just be.
Hey, that's big.
So for me, that's huge, because I don't feel used anymore. I feel I am useful, and I want to give what I have instead of feel I'm being taken advantage of, but to step into the world more empowered and just present and okay and proud, and I'm good.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, Stacey, your turn again.
What was the question?
Action steps. What do you think you'll do after this?
Finish my PhD.
Yes.
Oh, yes, girl.
Yeah, hopefully.
Such big things.
And then continue preserving our Filipino history, Filam history, Filipino history, and just, I don't know, being having some sort of substantial aspect in the legacy of what my grandparents and my great-grandparents and my parents had to go through just to stand here. I think that's all I actually want. Just the blood of my ancestors actually looking back at me and saying that they were proud. I think that's it.
Wow.
And being recognized by other people, whether people of color, mainstream white, Euro-American society, just she did something for them. That's it. I think that's it. Because I can't ask for more than what my parents and grandparents already did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So pay it forward.
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you.
Nice.
All right, Keen.
Well, just as a professional cook, I'm setting it up so that I could really impact the world and communities and change the way that we view our food. And what I mean is that I think young people aren't given very strong skills, a good foundation of skills to understand just basic things like boiling eggs or cooking rice. I mean, okay, cooking rice is pretty basic.
Some college kids do.
And that's the thing. That's the thing. To maybe everyone in this circle,
They don't know this.
You fill it up, you get the finger in there.
They don't know.
Or you wash the rice.
They don't know to rinse the rice.
Yeah, rinse the rice.
Put water on the egg wrap.
All those little things. But that's the difference between good and great.
Yes.
And that's what I want to do. That's my almost life mission I adopted, is to make sure that the next generation of cooks better than me.
Yeah.
And so I'm using this experience to build community, to reunite with old friends and new ones.
15 years, apparently.
Yeah.
Long story. Not really long. I forgot. It was my fault.
That's a
And
teenager.
that's a long time for just my own personal experience, just moving around and saying bye to a lot of friends. And one of my favorite things is saying hi to them later on.
Yeah.
So, now that we're all adulting, and that we can make a real good impact on the community, and with the internet as a vehicle,
Absolutely.
I think that we can really change views and open up more perspectives just by sharing food. So I got a lot to cook.
Yeah. Get started. Get back in the kitchen. All right, Janelle. Birthday girl.
Happy birthday.
Janelle's podcast. Janelle's Closet podcast. What do you think you're going to do after this?
I don't know. I think I really liked what you said about showing up more and just being present. And I feel like that's that feels like the easiest thing to do for me right now.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like there's a lot of learning that still needs to be done on my end. There's a lot of, like, figuring things out on a, like, personal level and my impact for everyone else before I feel like I can do anything bigger. So I think that showing up might be, like, my next big step.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I mentioned this earlier, but, like, showing up to this was, like, a really big deal for me, so.
Yes.
And I did it.
On your birthday. So, girl, you got all that food out there for you.
So, like, why not show up to more things, you know?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Start.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to, like, undervalue the fact that you came out today. So I really want to just thank you for showing up. I know it's a big deal. I mean, I'm an introvert. Like, I don't want to get out of the house. I don't want to put on makeup on. I don't want to, like, wash my hair.
Yeah. And
I don't
even
shower.
when I do commit,
Yeah.
like, when it comes time to do it, I'm like,
Yeah. Like, sometimes I'll over, like,
I will the excuses.
yeah,
I
like,
can
I'll
make.
take my time to, like, really get ready.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, do I really still want to go out?
Yeah.
So it's a big thing for me as well. And so I understand. And I just appreciate you for coming out, because there are plenty of people who saw our posts and they chose not to come out for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad. I'm glad that we had this intimate group to show up. So, Nani, your turn.
I think that I'm just at a point in my life where I'm very hungry for connection, specifically in this space. And like you said, I think I'm still working even now on, like, what that means for me personally and how I can use that to, like, serve whatever answers I find to the world or to the podcast community or Instagram community or whatever, and making that connection. So that's also something that I'm still working through. Yeah.
Beautiful. And that's completely okay.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of wrap up with this. I think that's, like, maybe why, let's say, some people didn't show up, or maybe why people haven't reached out to us yet, is because they feel like they need to show up like they're perfect. They need to show up as if they feel like they've, like, figured it out. And the thing is, none of us is ever going to figure it out. Ever. Like, no matter how much you study, no matter how much you travel, like, you know, my husband, like, traveled the world and he still haven't figured it out, you know, and he speaks, like, 4 dialects and he's like this, I mean, in my opinion, he's this privileged white man, and he still hasn't figured it out. And if he hasn't figured it out, but he's still, like, pursuing his passion, he's still being present. For me, it's like I gotta do that. I'm allowed to do that too. I'm allowed to show up and not feel like I'm allowed to show up. Period.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to know it all. And I think my action step, I think is obvious, is to keep doing the show. Is to keep inviting people to share their story and to continue to create, like, have the space for people to come forward and be unapologetic and share their story, even if they don't know their whole story. Because Nani and I will pry.
Yeah.
We will pry, and we'll
force it out of you.
We will force it out. I mean, not force, gently force it out. Just force it out of you.
There you go.
We will encourage, force it out of you. No, we will do what we can, because, like, we understand how difficult it is to, like, speak up. And I've definitely been in those situations. I was telling Nani about this even before this all started, of, like, where I've been in situations where, yeah, I too was, like, in those situations where I was the only dark-skinned person in the room, and it was, like, a culture shock. And I didn't realize how much it'd be a culture shock till I was in it, you know. And sometimes you just realize, like, wow, like, I really do stand out. Like, whether I try to hide it or not, I'm going to stand out whether I like it or not. And I just need to take that moment to, like, embrace that and, like, figure out how to, like, navigate through it. So, yeah, I think my next action step is really to have an episode after this and to just keep going, and to also encourage any of our listeners who actually, like, stuck through this entire interview, by the way, or, yeah, this whole episode. It's probably, like, 3 hours, probably. But some people have, like, our drunk episode of 2.5 hours. You're welcome. Thank you for listening and hearing us talk about Pop-Tarts and McDonald's and
whatever else
and Archipelago. And,
oh, God. Don't bring that up. I still can't say it.
Yeah, it's okay. It's like how I can't say Compartmentalize.
Thank you.
I can't say. I still can't.
Compartmentalize.
Wait, what?
Compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize.
Yes.
Compartmentalize.
Yeah.
Colonization. Yeah. Anti-disestablishmentarianism.
Wow.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That's a thing still to be able to say that. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Anyway, with that said, I just want to thank you all, to our listeners and to everyone here today, for joining us. And if you all felt moved or compelled by anyone who has been on the show today, we'll have your IG handles in the show notes, like I said a number of times already.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you all so much. It's been such a gift. And also to our listeners, thank you so much for listening and continuing to validate us and sharing our shows and encouraging other people to listen. I'm never good at ending this. Remember? I'm never good at edit. We always edit this part out. I'm always at this point where I try to like close it up and I can't.
Yeah, find some pocket answers. Like.
Yeah, I do. Okay.
What
do I say?
We have to have
Should I end it?
We have to come up with like an exit line.
Yeah.
Or I'm sure you guys are tired of us going around the circle, but we could just all say bye.
Yeah. Okay, all right. With that said, we want to thank you all so much for listening, and we look forward to speaking with you in the next episode. Tune in next time. Notes by Nani.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yes.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye from Optimus.
Bye from Selena's S89.
This is What's Cooking Good Looking. Aloha.
Bye, y'all. This is Janelle at Original.
Yes. Awesome. Okay, bye, everyone. We're done. We're sobering up now. We're hydrating. Okay, bye.
Cheers. Bye.